Welcome back for the 8th episode of Chalk Talk. I'm Matt Morris, joined as always by Scott Procter and Lucas Semb. And this week we're starting off with the NFL. And although the MVP race right now is a battle of the quarterbacks, we're going to talk about who they throw to and who we think is the best wide receiver this year for the 2020 season. Luke, who is your pick right off the bat?
Yeah, it's got to be DeAndre Hopkins for me. He's the kind of guy you instill into any offense, and you're getting 1,000 yards. He's the first Cardinals 1,000-yard receiver since Larry Fitzgerald in 2017. Him and, believe it or not, Will Fuller, as well as now Justin Jefferson, are the only guys in the league this year with at least 5 games of 100-plus receiving yards. This past week against the Rams, he obviously drew Jalen Ramsey defensively, got 8 receptions, 50-plus yards, and a touchdown. There's been a lot of talk surrounding, his route tree and how he's been limited, how Kingsbury hasn't been using him maybe as effectively as he should be used. But Hopkins is he's a true professional. He gets the job done however he's asked to do it. And let's not forget to mention the big play factor he provides. Against the Bills a few weeks ago, the Hail Murray, Hopkins the only Cardinal in a group of 4 to 5 Bills, and he comes down with it for the win. He's the unquestioned number 1 receiver in the league, in my opinion.
No, I understand. DeAndre Hopkins is having a great season, and I think every Texan fan in the world is, just totally wishing that he was back on their team. But I'm going to go with Mr. Top 2, not 2, Davante Adams up in Green Bay. This season he has 84 receptions for over 1,000 yards, 13 TDs, which is tied for the most in the NFL, and he's averaging 12.3 yards per reception, and he's 9th in the league in yards after a carry. I mean, Davante just day in and day out gets it done. If you put him in single-man coverage, he is going to get embarrassed. I mean, he's going to embarrass someone. Like, it's going to be an automatic, 20 yards from Aaron Rodgers, and that chemistry that they have is unbelievable. And what's even more impressive is that Davante's missed 2 games, and he's still putting up those numbers. And if he continues to do what he's doing, which is have a touchdown in the last 7 straight games, he's going to go for 117 catches, over 1,400 yards, and 18 touchdowns. And he will most likely be in the talks for Offensive Player of the Year. He's Pro Football Focus's number 1 receiver for 2020, and not just because of his receptions, but because he does the extra stuff too. He blocks on the run game. Block for other wide receivers during a screen. He's just an all-around great player, and he's that guy that you want as your number 1 receiver because you can't look at him and say anything other than, well, if he's doing everything, I got to do everything. And his rapport with Rodgers, obviously Aaron Rodgers can make almost any wide receiver look great, but the fact that Davante is great makes that package elite and that duo unbelievable. And it's the reason that, the Packers are second in the NFC right now and have a chance to take first and get a first week or a first game bye and have home field advantage all the way to the Super Bowl.
Before we get to Scott, here's where I differentiate, Hopkins and Adams. I think both of them, like you said, it's impossible to stay foot for foot with Davante Adams. Like you said, it's a 20-yard catch every time. Yep. But I think that DeAndre Hopkins can do the same thing. Now, where I differentiate them is the long ball and, high pointing the ball, getting up over the defenders. I think Hopkins has an edge there that I don't think Davante Adams, he's the speed guy, but he's not getting up and high point the ball. That's where I think the difference comes.
Well, I'll show you, I'll see your, high point the ball, and I'll raise you route running. Davante Adams is the best route runner in the league. He is elite at that, ability, and it's one reason why he can just blow past any, defender. But he does have that speed. It's just that they don't want to utilize him in that sense. You watch the Packers a lot of times. They like to put him in the slot. They like to put him on the outside, but it's shorter runs. It's not always for the deep ball. But he has the shortest hands also in the NFL. I mean, I might give you DeAndre Hopkins is great at high pointing the ball, but if there's a ball in Davante Adams' range, it's getting caught, and it's why he has so many touchdowns, because he's unbelievable in the red zone. So I see what you're talking about with DeAndre, but I just think Davante can make up for, that deep ball threat that you mentioned in the high point of the ball with his sure hands and red zone, his ability to catch those touchdowns, and then that route running. I think it's just second to none.
First off, Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins are excellent choices. I'm glad it's finally becoming popular opinion for Devontae to be mentioned in this conversation of the league's best wide receiver. And DeAndre Hopkins, I think, has the best hands, pure hands of any receiver in the league. But none of them have the speed that Tyreek Hill does. The kind of explosiveness that strikes fear in opposing defenses, dictates coverages, and yet you still see him flying down the field wide open, backflipping on fools because he is that unguardable. He's tied with Devontae with the league leading touchdowns with 13, and he should have 2 more that were called back on Sunday. One was called back by holding, and one wasn't reviewed when it should have been. So he really should have 15. He's third in yards in the league behind DK Metcalf and his demon of a teammate, Travis Kelce. The man Tyreek Hill had 200 yards in the first quarter a couple weeks ago against a very respectable Buccaneers defense. Ideally, you want big chunk plays from your offensive playmakers, specifically on the perimeter. And Tyreek Hill is arguably the best at producing those. He has 17 big plays this season. Those are categorized by 20-plus yard receiving plays, which is third behind Justin Jefferson and, again, his teammate Travis Kelce. You pair Tyreek Hill with the best quarterback and tight end in the game, and the result is exactly what you see. This is the best team in the league by a wide margin. I wouldn't have said this a year or two ago because the consistency wasn't really there for me just yet. Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the NFL through 13 weeks.
It's hard to argue any of these options. I think they're all great choices, and I mean, there's really not much more to say. We're gonna have to see how the rest of the year pans out.
For sure. And with these three, they all have good quarterbacks. So that point is kind of a moot point. But because you can't double Tyreek Hill or put real safety over the top because of Kelce, I think it really makes Tyreek Hill the best, true number one wide receiver in the NFL. But, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to stay with the NFL, but we're going to discuss the race that's becoming a bit more and more interesting by the week. Joe Burrow was neck and neck with Justin Herbert for the highest offensive rookie of the year odds before the Bengals quarterback unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury in Week 11. Kyler Murray is the reigning offensive rookie of the year, but Luke, do you think the award stays with the quarterback position this year?
I do not, and this is an easy choice for me. We saw a step-back game this past week from Herbert, 2 interceptions, a 45-0 loss to the Patriots. And Joe Burrow's injury, like you had mentioned, things took a shift in this award, and I think Justin Jefferson keeps making electrifying plays, and he's going to be the guy who ends up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. He joined the one and only Randy Moss this past week as the only 2 Vikings rookies with over 1,000 yards. Alongside Adam Thielen, Jefferson has thrived. But let's talk about when Thielen isn't around. On the COVID-19 list 2 weeks ago against the Panthers, he was unable to play, and Jefferson really elevated his game when he had to another level, grabbing 2 touchdowns in a close win. Amongst rookies this year, he leads in basically every category. He's first in catches over 15 yards, first in yards after catch, first in first down catches, first in touchdowns, first in yards per route, and that's over guys like Claypool, Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, a good wide receiver class. The more I talk about it, the more I realize this really isn't even a close race. And, where would the Vikings be without him? They'd still have Thielen and they'd still have Cook, but without Jefferson, who's given them a huge boost offensively, I don't think they would be in the playoff hunt.
No, I understand where you're coming from with Jefferson, and he definitely has put together a pretty impressive season. But I'm going to go with the quarterback. I'm going to go with the guy that has been in the conversation since day one and became the leader once, unfortunately, when Joe Burrow got hurt. It's Justin Herbert, quarterback for the LA Chargers. And although they had a terrible loss against the Patriots, who are still fighting for their playoff lives, so they came in and they wanted to play. But Herbert has thrown for over 3,000 yards, 23 TDs, and only 9 interceptions. And what's more is when you look at the losses that the Chargers have had, almost all of them are one-score games. Before this blowout to the Patriots, their worst loss was the week before against the Buffalo Bills by 10 points. They've lost to Kansas City in overtime. They've lost to New Orleans in overtime. They lost to Denver by 1 point on a last-second, score. They've regularly been in the game, but most of the time, it's not Herbert's fault that they don't close out. It is either the defense has fallen apart, or there was another offensive player who fumbled the ball, or there's been other issues. And Herbert has also been asked to do a lot in his first year as a rookie quarterback. The Chargers don't have one 100-yard rusher this season. They've gotten close, but they don't have a solid running game. There's been games where Herbert was the leading rusher, and he's been regularly asked to throw over 40 times in games, and he only has 9 interceptions, which is actually less than Russell Wilson. He's got 23 TDs. So I just think that when you look at what the Chargers have done, if you look closely at the games, obviously the record does not show in Herbert's favor. But Herbert is the reason that they're in these games and they're as close as they are. And, next year, a lot of these one-score games are going to be wins. And instead of looking at a 3-9 team, you could easily be looking at a 9-3 team. And that's why Herbert is going to be, Rookie of the Year, and why he has been Rookie of the Year for a long time now.
See, that's the one knock for me, though. You mentioned how they're close losses, but a loss is a loss any way you look at it. I think a guy who's leading a 3-9 team cannot be the offensive Rookie of the Year. You need to be a model of consistency or, progressing. And when you have a game where you're throwing, 2 interceptions and you lose 45-0, no touchdowns, and then the next week, you have four touchdowns. That's not a model of consistency. And I think Jefferson has been. I think that's why he's going to come out ahead.
But you're comparing two teams in two totally different places. Obviously, you mentioned that Jefferson played well when Thielen was out, but regularly he is the number 2 to Adam Thielen. And not only that, the entire Vikings offense is not based off of Justin Jefferson. It's based off of Dalvin Cook. It's a run-first team. And, and the fact that Jefferson has been able to put up those numbers is impressive because the Vikings don't want Kirk Cousins to throw the ball. They would gladly rush Dalvin Cook 30 times and win the game and have Kirk Cousins throw 3 passes and then take a knee at the end of the game. So I think that when you look at that as well, Herbert has put up great numbers. He has been fairly consistent except for this last loss. And you look at a singular player award, you have to give it to Herbert because he's being asked to do more on a worse team, and he's at least giving them chances and opportunities to win. But he can't control what the rest of the team does. Jefferson is in a playoff team that is set up for if Jefferson plays well, then he's going to get, the most out of – he's going to maximize his options and his opportunities for success because he doesn't have to be the guy. They're not double-teaming him, and they're not going in – defenses going into a game against the Vikings are not putting Justin Jefferson as the priority
I think they are now, though. That's the thing. Of course, the Vikings would have Cook rush 30 times, and he did just this last week. But to your point, saying that they don't want Cousins to throw the ball, I think early on in the year, he had a very slow start, very concerning. But he's had multiple 3-touchdown games up to this point, and Thielen and Jefferson are killing it. That's the whole thing. Now Jefferson has a target on his back where teams are game planning for him, and he's a big part of their conversation coming up, for opposing defenses coming into that game week.
Let me slide in here and play tiebreaker a little bit because you both make excellent points. But here's where I'm going to go. The last wide receiver to win Offensive Rookie in the Year was a man by the name of Odell Beckham Jr. back in 2014. And is it a coincidence that Odell Beckham handed wads of cash to Justin Jefferson after LSU won the national championship earlier this year and the two are great friends? I think not. I was a big fan of Justin Jefferson heading into the draft, and I mentioned his play on our Week 10 NFL recap show when we spoke about the Vikings' playoff chances. And honestly, I think that's where Luke got the idea. But anyway, he's turning into a superstar before our very eyes, and the numbers back it up, as Luke alluded to. He's the second highest graded receiver in the entire league. And he's the best rookie wideout by a mile in an ultra-talented class with dudes like Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Chase Claypool, Brendan Ayuk, a real talented wide receiver class, and he's head and shoulders the best. To your point, Matt, Justin Herbert may very well end up winning Offensive Rookie in the Year simply because of the position he plays, the workload he's had to take on, and the fact that he's thrown for 300-plus yards in 6 of his 11 starts, which can't go unnoticed. That is impressive for a rookie signal caller who was really just thrown into the fire in Week 2, 30 minutes before the game, going against the defending the reigning champs and the Chiefs in his first start, and he balled from day one. So not taking anything away with Justin Herbert. I think he has a super bright future quarterback position ahead of him. But as Luke said, he had his worst game as a pro on Sunday in a 45-0 rout. That's just not a good look. And just 2 wins as a starter doesn't help, because although the Chargers are 3-9, obviously Tyrod Taylor, started the season for them and got that first opening week win. But Justin Jefferson is the guy, man, I think he's offensive rookie of the year. Like Luke said, he's been a model of consistency. He's damn near unguardable as a rookie, and it's very rare that you see that. It's DBs out here. You turn on some Justin Jefferson film, they can't touch him. They can't put hands on Justin Jefferson. And, the 2 Justins is going to be a great race. These last 4 weeks will be critical. But right now, Jefferson gets my vote.
It's nice to have someone on my side in this show finally.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see. And between Jefferson and Herbert, I don't think he can go wrong. But when we come back, we'll be talking college football. And Scott and I might officially jump off the BYU hype train. You'll have to find out when we come back. This is Chalk Talk. They said anywhere, anytime, any team, but that obviously didn't refer to Coastal Carolina. The 13th ranked BYU Cougars fell to the 18th ranked Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, 22-17 this last weekend, and obviously destroyed all hopes BYU had of pushing for not just the college football playoff, but a game on New Year's Day. So, Scott, I think obviously we have to go first and jump off the BYU hype train.
Yeah, Matt, I was mistaken. What happened on Saturday is exactly what I asked for. I sat here last week with you guys and, pleaded for BYU to find a top 25 or at least a Power 5 opponent for its open date on Saturday. And, they made a fool out of me. I was enamored by the play of Zach Wilson and blinded by BYU's dominance over inferior opponents. Look, BYU is a good team with an even better quarterback, but they're not a top 10 team hovering in that 7-10 range like I originally thought. So I sit here today and, can say, Lucas Semb, you were right about this particular topic, and the floor is yours, my guy.
All right. I just got to sit here and bask in my glory because I know, like you said, you two last week were sitting here talking about let BYU get a Power 5 team and prove it. And I said Liberty or Coastal Carolina. That's a more likewise matchup. And that's exactly what it was. It was a good game between 2 likewise teams who get lesser recruits, and the better team came out on top, straight up. But don't get it twisted. Neither team would beat a Power 5 school. The hype does not transfer to Coastal Carolina. Wisconsin isn't bowl eligible, and a couple more losses from top schools might have the formula getting Coastal Carolina into a top bowl game. I don't necessarily think they'll be long there if it does happen, but they'll have earned it if that becomes the case.
Well, it looks like as of right now for Coastal Carolina, they're undefeated. This is their second top 25 ranked opponent that they've beaten. And they're set up to play Louisiana again, who when they beat earlier this season was ranked 21st. They're ranked 25th now. So if they beat Louisiana for the second time, that is 3 top 25 opponents that they've beaten. And not only that, by the transference ability in college football, Louisiana upset Iowa State, who's ranked top 10 right now and is a Power 5 school and is fighting Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship. By that means Louisiana beat Iowa State, Coastal Carolina beats Louisiana again, sweeps them. They look like they are a team that is not only going to have a game possibly on New Year's Day and have a big bowl game, but they'll be competitive against who they play because they've obviously shown that they deserve to be ranked. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them not just pass BYU for 13th once the rankings come out, but they'll probably be top 10. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if they beat Louisiana again. I think they absolutely deserve a good bowl game. And as much as, Luke, you were right, the BYU hype train is not there, I still disagree with you on the fact of recruiting, and these lower tier schools have no chance to beat a Power 5 school. There is something called coaching. Players can be coached up. You regularly see guys step up and play better as they get older. You've seen these lower schools like a Boise State, a TCU, which were my teams I brought up last week, beat Power 5 schools and beat them, in impressive games and impressive ways. So I'm still going to say, obviously, they don't right now. BYU or Coastal Carolina will not make the college football playoff, but I don't think you discredit them right away because you don't think they can go against a Power 5 school, because I think they deserve a chance to at least go against one, and then you go from there. So I'll still hold on to that part of the argument, and I'll fight that each year, each season, because it keeps being shown that non-Power 5 schools can do something against a Power 5 school.
It happens, but this isn't March Madness, okay? The better football team is going to win the game. There's not going to be that many Cinderellas in a college football season. It's just, basketball is a different game. Those upsets can happen. And college football kind of comes and goes. It's far and few in between.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina because my BYU wound is still a little fresh. But if Coastal Carolina, as Matt said, finishes the regular season undefeated and as Sun Belt champions, I think they will have deserved the opportunity to at least play in the New Year's Six Bowl. A win over BYU, who, again, I still think is a quality top 20, top 25 team, and a pair of wins over Louisiana, who's been ranked in the top 25 for the majority of the year, assuming they do get it done in the Sun Belt championship game. Should be enough. Coastal Carolina is well coached. They play with confidence and swagger, and that's growing as they continue to build on their undefeated record. And I honestly don't think there are many teams that would want to play them at this point outside of the top four.
And shout out to Silas Kelly. Silas Kelly, the top linebacker on Coastal Carolina, who I interviewed earlier this year before the season started. A top defensive player for them, tore his ACL, comes back, and he's the leading tackler for them. And he told me this is what they expected and this is what was going to happen. And here they are. They talked it into existence, and I think they will beat Louisiana. Louisiana coming off a 3-point win against Appalachian State this last week, which was not very convincing. So I think, trends would say Coastal Carolina is going to get that Sun Belt title.
We'll have to see. Currently, right now, there are almost 6 teams that have 2 losses that are ranked higher than Coastal Carolina. So we'll have to see how far up they move. And how much how much hype they give 2 wins against Louisiana, even though they're ranked. I don't know if they're going to care that much about that. The Sun Belt Conference win is going to be important. Maybe we'll see them play Cincinnati in a bowl game and give 2 non-Power 5 teams that matchup. But when we come back, we're going to be celebrating a certain NBA superstar's birthday, and then we'll see how big of a birthday present he'll sign for himself, or if he'll pass on it and look to the future to move on from his current situation. This is Chalk Talk. When we come back, we're talking NBA. The Greek Freak celebrated his 26th birthday on Sunday and was gifted a pen by his teammates, Pat Connaughton and Chris Middleton, who hope he'll use it in the near future. With the deadline for Giannis to sign his supermax extension with the Milwaukee Bucks to the tune of 5 years, $250 million, is coming up on December 21st. So with just under 2 weeks left, will he do it? Scott, what are your thoughts? Is the Greek Freak staying in Milwaukee?
Yeah, so the chances of it happening don't look great right now, if you ask me, because, Matt, as you mentioned, that deadline is less than 2 weeks from now. And it's like, Giannis, what are you waiting for? The team is just about set. The core of this team isn't changing much in the next week and a half. So I'm not sure if Giannis signs a supermax, but what I do know is that Giannis should not sign a supermax. Look, Giannis has made it abundantly clear that his only objective at this point in his career is to win championships. And the Milwaukee Bucks don't give him the best chance to do that. Jrue Holiday, DJ Augustine, Bobby Portis, Torrey Craig, who I really like. I think he feels a major need there. All these dudes are nice additions, but it's not enough for a team who 2 seasons ago lost 4 straight playoff games and got gentlemen swept in the conference semis this past season.
Do you think their team is better now than it was 2 seasons ago?
Say it again?
Do you think their team is better now than it was 2 seasons ago?
Marginally, yes.
Okay, so then why couldn't that be the missing pieces?
Because I just said it's not enough. They have a number 2 in Chris Middleton, who should really be a number 3 on a championship roster, and a coach who has not shown the ability to win big playoff series or make in-game adjustments. When you have a top 3 player like Giannis, the expectation is to win a title, and the Bucks aren't any closer to that goal than they were 2 years ago. They are marginally better. Giannis will waste a significant portion of his prime if he chooses to sign the supermax in Milwaukee, and it'll be a great mistake for him if he does.
Something's not adding up here. You say they're marginally better, but it won't be enough. They were in the conference championship and blew it. So now you bring in
losing 4 games in a row isn't blowing it. You weren't good enough.
You bring in those pieces, and now you're saying they're marginally better. So that would, marginally better would mean making it to the championship.
No,
we need to get over this idea that Milwaukee's not a true contender anymore. That is a lame thing to hear.
No one's saying they're not a true contender. They're a title contender. They're just not going to win it.
And when you're a top 3 player, like you just mentioned, Giannis, all you need to do is put good pieces around him. He doesn't need to team up with LeBron and Anthony
You have to
Davis.
put the right pieces around him, not pieces, the right pieces.
They did. Giannis orchestrated this move for Jrue Holiday, who is a 2-way star in the NBA. He's already got an elite scorer, elite scorer, and Chris Middleton next to him. And now their bench got, like you said, marginally better than it's been in the past 2 seasons. This is going to be his best chance. I don't even think he's entered his prime yet. The guy just turned 26. So don't talk about wasting those years.
So let me ask you a question. Why hasn't he signed the Supermax? If he's so confident, if he's handpicked this roster to play alongside him, why hasn't he signed the Supermax? What's he waiting on?
Here we go. Because Giannis is just letting morons like you and the rest of the media, that's what I have to say, he's having fun with it. There is no rush for Giannis. He is having fun with it. Giannis loves all this media attention. He loves watching people say, oh, he's going to go here. Oh, he's going to go here. How many times does he have to say himself that he's never going anywhere for you people to believe it?
The talk, I will say this. The talk since, I remember Mark J. Spears writing the article about 4 years ago that the countdown for Giannis leaving Milwaukee has started, and that was 4 years ago. Every single season, the talk has been, when is Giannis leaving Milwaukee? And every time Giannis has said, I'm staying. Now, to that point, that's what you're supposed to say. You're not going to – when you're under contract, you're not –
George said he wants to retire. That's played for the last 3 teams.
That's not what you're supposed to say. That's not what you're supposed to say.
Paul George said he wants to retire for the team that he's played for the last 3 teams he's played for. That's what you say in the NBA.
Okay.
No, it's not, because we've seen these stars outspoken now. We see outspoken stars demanding trades. They want to go somewhere. They need this. But Giannis is one of those old-time classic personalities. He's going to be a Buck for the rest of his life.
But he shouldn't. For what he wants to do, which is win championships and win multiple championships, he can't do it in Milwaukee. Not as currently constructed. He can't. It can't happen. He has Chris Middleton. He has to rely on Chris Middleton. And the fact that you gave him credit for what Chris Middleton did in the series where they got gentlemen swept by the Miami Heat when Giannis went out is laughable. Chris Middleton is a number 3 on a great team. Look at the best teams in the league. The Lakers, is Chris Middleton the 3rd best player on their team? Yes. How about the Mavs? Yes. How about the Clippers? The Sixers? The Nets? That's 5 teams where Chris Middleton is the 3rd best player on the team, and you're
okay. And even now the Bucks. Now he's the 3rd best on the Bucks. They got Jrue Holiday.
So Jrue Holiday's better than Chris Middleton.
Both ways, yes. And he offers a completely different dynamic. The biggest problem for this team the past couple of years.
One second. So that's fine. You think Jrue Holiday is better? How about let's run that experiment over with Jrue Holiday with those teams I just mentioned? Isn't he the 3rd or 4th best option on those teams? I think so. But go ahead.
Okay, listen. So you're going to bring Jrue Holiday in for Eric Bledsoe. He's a better defender than Bledsoe. He's a better shooter than Bledsoe. He's a better scorer
than Bledsoe. There's a ton of point guards who are better at those things than Eric Bledsoe.
Bledsoe was our 3rd option, right? Bledsoe was the 3rd option on this team. I'm not talking about other people who are better than him right now. I'm talking about Jrue Holiday. I'm not talking about everyone else. He was the 3rd option on this Bucks team. And when they got to the playoffs, he was a 25% three-point shooter, but he continued to shoot them. He disappeared defensively. Jrue Holiday doesn't do that. He doesn't.
What evidence do you have of that in the playoffs?
He's a 48% three-point shooter on his career in the playoffs, and that's through, I believe, 28 games. So that's the statistics on that.
How many conference finals has Jrue Holiday played in?
0.
Oh, okay. What'd you say, Matt?
Portland dropped 40 regularly with Anthony Davis that last season. They played well together.
Yeah, and let me answer your question quick about why Giannis is waiting.
What was AD ceiling in New Orleans?
Hey. Giannis just had a baby. He's coming off an MVP. He's in Greece, and the media salivates over everything he does. He's enjoying everyone freaking out for no reason. This is a guy who is selling watches on the street in Greece. He is not, by no means, going to pass up a guaranteed supermax. It's just a matter of time. He's enjoying his offseason. Let him be.
We'll see. Again, it'll be a great mistake for what Giannis wants to do for his career professionally to re-sign the supermax with the Milwaukee Bucks. He won't be able to accomplish what he wants to do as a pro. Simple as that.
Absolutely disagree. Giannis is going to go down as one of the best players of all time, probably a top 10 player of all time, maybe a top 5 player of all time. And when he wins 2, 3, 4 championships in Milwaukee, which is going to happen, you heard it here first, he might be the best player of all time because he didn't go anywhere. He didn't have what you call superstars next to him. Giannis is going to be the man, and he's building his legacy the way he wants to build his legacy, and people need to just let that be, but they won't because the media just loves Giannis. Who wouldn't?
Lucas taking a recent hot streak and putting it all on the line right now.
Lucas, you said 2, 3, you said 4 championships for Giannis in Milwaukee? Is that what you said?
He wants to play till he's 40. You don't think he can get 4 of them in the next 14 years?
I asked you a direct question. You said 2, 3, or 4 championships for Giannis in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's all you got to say about that.
Bottom line is December 21st comes and goes. If Giannis has not signed the supermax, he's not leaving. He's leaving Milwaukee because he's not going to leave money on the table in Milwaukee. So we'll know December 21st, and we'll have to revisit the same conversation simply because, to Luke's point, Giannis doesn't exactly enjoy the media hype, and he doesn't enjoy dealing with the media. So he's not going to spend an entire season asking questions, are you going to resign, are you not going to resign? If he doesn't, he's done.
That's a very important point. I also agree. I'm of the mindset that Giannis isn't – bro, he's a humble dude. He's from Greece. He came from real humble beginnings. And you guys say that he doesn't like the media. I concur. Why not just put all of this noise to bed and sign the extension? If you're not thinking about us more, you know the Milwaukee Bucks, the core of that team isn't going to change much. They're not going to bring in more players to help you reach your goals. So what are you waiting for exactly? I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Preseason just started. Practices just started. He might be seeing how the team looks together, the nucleus. Obviously,
so he's still undecided. That's
Giannis. What you guys are missing is that Giannis built this nucleus. He's not waiting to see anything. The guy is just enjoying his.
Well, he wanted Bogdanovich, and that didn't happen.
He doesn't like the media. You're right. He's absolutely just clowning people and make them on a wild goose chase, wondering what he's going to do just sitting there. And that's why he is enjoying it so much.
The Bogdanovich thing is interesting that you brought up, Scott, but I don't know if I don't know if I blame the Bucks for that. I think that it was a weird situation. There's a lot of pointing fingers, and I don't know if we'll ever know who was really at fault. But December 21st, we'll be back on Chalk Talk, and we'll have to address this and see if he's signed by then. But this has been the 8th episode of Chalk Talk. I'm Matt Morris with Scott Procter and Lucas Semb. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good day.